US President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe have agreed that it is imperative to completely dismantle North Korea's nuclear weapons and ballistic missile program. The US and Japanese leaders will meet ahead of a much-anticipated summit with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. The meet is back on schedule for the 12th of June in Singapore, just days after Trump announced he was cancelling it. Now, Italy is likely to face fresh elections within the next 4 months. President Sergio Mattarella has appointed a former IMF official as the interim prime minister with the task of planning for snap polls. Italy has been seeking a new government since the inconclusive March elections, and anti-establishment forces have failed to form a ruling coalition after a standoff with the president. Now, EU foreign ministers have met in Brussels to discuss ways to preserve the Iran nuclear deal. The meet has been held a few weeks after the United States withdrew from the accord. Ministers discussed how to protect European firms operating in Iran, as reimposition of US economic sanction on Iran penalizes foreign firms doing business with Tehran. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that only Syrian government troops should have a presence on Syria's southern border, which is close to Jordan and Israel. Now, Russia has insisted on withdrawal of non-Syrian forces from this part of the country. Russia and Iran are close allies of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Paraguay's President Horacio Cartes has said that he has presented his resignation to Congress so that he can legally take office as a senator on the 1st of July. Cartes' term ends in August. If Congress accepts his resignation, a former Supreme Court judge, Alicia Pucheta, who was named vice president a few days ago, will run the nation for the coming months. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has said that she had told EU Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier that Scotland wanted to stay in the European Union's customs union and the single market. Scotland has been clear in their intentions that they want a second referendum once the terms of Brexit are made clear, and they are firm in their position of wanting to remain part of the European Union. Emir of Qatar visits Kuwait and meets with his counterpart. Officially, Kuwait has described the visit as a fraternal one to offer greetings and best wishes to the Emir Sheikh Sabah on the month of Ramadan. Last year, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Egypt had severed their diplomatic, trade and travel relations with Qatar, accusing it of supporting extremists and funding terrorism. Clashes broke out in Cochabamba in western Bolivia over both a block in funding and the death of a student in a protest last week. It was unclear how many were injured during the latest confrontation between the protesters and police. The latest violence began when protesters gathered at the government offices being guarded by riot police. Students have been marching for more than 2 weeks in Bolivia now. A Nicaraguan government employee has been killed and 3 other people have been injured over the weekend. It is the latest casualty of deadly political unrest that has racked the Central American nation for over a month now. The fatality brings to 84 the number of people killed since protests began on the 28th of April this year, while more than 860 have been injured. Pakistan has appointed former Chief Justice Nasirul Mulk as the interim Prime Minister until general elections on July 25th. The interim administration does not usually make any major decisions until the new government is elected. The announcement comes amid growing political and economic instability and ends weeks of wrangling between Abbasi's ruling party and the opposition. Pak's ousted Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has also claimed that India's attitude towards Pakistan has changed after Islamabad conducted nuclear tests in 1998. Sharif says that it is because of his decision to conduct the nuclear test that no one could challenge Pakistan. Pakistan's army has ordered a court of inquiry into the revelations made by former ISI Chief Lieutenant General Asad Durrani. Army has approached the government to place Durrani's name on the exit control list to prevent him from leaving the country. Pak Army had summoned Durrani to explain his position on the book titled Spy Chronicles. Pakistan summoned India's Deputy High Commissioner JP Singh over Gilgit-Baltistan order row. Pakistan has issued a démarche over the Indian statement that the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir, which also includes the Gilgit-Baltistan, is an integral part of India. Pakistan had passed an order seizing more authority from the local council of Gilgit-Baltistan to deal with the affairs of the region. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's three-day official visit to Indonesia begins today. The visit aims to revive the old warmth in the relationship that the two countries enjoyed for a very long time, with a focus on maritime ties and economic relations. Modi will leave for Singapore on the 31st of May for a three-day visit. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif, who was in India on a one-day visit, stressed upon the idea of strengthening relations shared by the two countries. During his visit, Zarif called upon Indian Minister of External Affairs Sushma Swaraj. Both the leaders held discussions on several bilateral issues. It's Zarif's first India visit to India after US pullout from the Iran nuclear deal. India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has said that India is involved in talks with the United States to not revoke H-1B and H-4 visas. The Trump administration is planning to end the Obama-era rule under which spouses of H-1B visa holders get work permit or H-4 visa. The US move could affect around 70,000 such visa holders. A large number of H-4 visa holders are highly skilled professionals from India. The Indian government has funded a housing village in north-central Sri Lanka. The village has been named after leading a Buddhist monk who was instrumental in the ouster of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa in the 2015 elections. The village will be developed using a grant of 300 million Sri Lankan rupees from the government of India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Queen Maxima of Netherlands, who is on a four-day tour to India. The two leaders discussed global developments in finance. Queen Maxima is visiting India in her capacity as the UN Secretary General's Special Advocate for inclusive finance for development. In a major development in the controversial Sunanda Pushkar's death case, Indian court has set 5th of June for order on cognizance of charge sheet against Congress leader Shashi Tharoor. Deceased Sunanda Pushkar was Shashi Tharoor's wife. Delhi police had filed a charge sheet implicating Shashi Tharoor earlier this month. The government of India's southern state, Tamil Nadu, has shut down the Sterlite copper melting plant in Tuticorin. The state government has said that it has accepted the plea of the protesters who had been demanding the permanent closure of the plant. As many as 13 people have died in police action during the large-scale anti-Sterlite protest in Tuticorin. Subtropical storm Alberto has hit land at Laguna Beach in Florida. Weather forecasters have warned of heavy rains and flooding. The thousands of Florida residents have evacuated homes as the storm headed north through the Gulf of Mexico. Alberto has become the first named storm of the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season. This is also the first landfall of this season. Recovery efforts are underway in Maryland's Ellicott City day after it was hit by flooding for the second time in less than 2 years. Authorities have said that a 39-year-old man was missing after flash flooding. The man was swept away as he tried to help rescue people from floodwaters. The area had barely recovered from a devastating flood about 2 years ago that killed around 2 people and damaged dozens of buildings. The fury of the erupting Qatar-Kuwait volcano has destroyed over 80 homes and other structures. Lava is still oozing from the volcano and magma is forming ponds of molten rock that are expected to overflow and stream into the next rows of homes. Authorities have asked residents to evacuate. However, there is no official information on how many residents remain or how many people might already have left. One of Russia's leading art galleries has called for toughening of the criminal legislation for vandalism against pieces of art. This comes after a man attacked a masterpiece with a metal pole after drinking vodka there. The incident caused serious damage to one of the country's most famous paintings. The incident also raised questions over how Russia protects its historical and cultural artifacts. The world's largest known freshwater pearl will be auctioned on Thursday in The Hague. The pearl has been dubbed as the sleeping lion due to its irregular shape. The pearl had once been owned by Catherine the Great of Russia, and it is believed to have come from China. The pearl has been valued between 340,000 to 540,000 euros. The auction will be the first time in 240 years when the pearl would be sold. Airports of Thailand PCL is adding new airports to its portfolio to ease demand. It is a major beneficiary of the country's tourism boom. The influx of tourists has lifted revenue and the share price, but it is putting pressure on the infrastructure and services. Thailand expects tourist arrivals to reach 37.5 million this year, up to 6% from 2017. A trucker strike paralyzing fuel, goods and food deliveries across Brazil entered an 8th day. This despite unpopular President Michel Temer's decision to cave in to the drivers' key demands for lowering the diesel cost. More than 550 roads blockages by truckers have been mounted across 24 of the country's 27 states. Many supermarkets around the country are struggling to source fresh food. Local government workers have been carrying out relief work to assess damage and relocate residents in the northeast province of China's Jilin. A 5.7 magnitude earthquake had hit Songyuan city earlier on Monday morning. Fortunately, no casualties have been reported. So far, more than 10,000 houses in Ninjiang have reported vandalized. An abandoned home in the Russian city has received a World Cup-inspired makeover. A group of Russian artists have added splashes of color to the city. The painters drew figures of cheering soccer fans and visitors from around the world holding up banners and balloons. Russia will host the FIFA World Cup from 14th of June to 15th of July in 12 stadiums spread across cities including Moscow, St. Petersburg and Sochi. French billionaire industrialist Serge Dassault has died in Paris at the age of 93. Dassault Group builds Rafale warplanes. He was the 5th richest person in France. Dassault was also a conservative politician and had passed on leadership of Dassault Aviation in 2000, but he was still chairing the Dassault Group. Malaysia is cancelling a project to build a high-speed rail link between its capital Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. Newly elected Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad said he will talk with its southern neighbour about any compensation Malaysia has to pay for the cancellation. Mahathir says that Malaysia may have to pay about $125 million to Singapore to get out of the deal. An illegal immigrant from Mali scaled the facade of the Paris apartment block to save a 4-year-old boy dangling from a 4th floor of the balcony. The migrant Gassama later met the French President Emmanuel Macron at the Élysée Palace. He has been given French citizenship by the president and a job in Paris. In football now, South Korea began the preparations for the 2018 World Cup with a 2-0 win against Honduras after a goalless first half. South Korea took the lead on the hour mark through Tottenham Hotspur star Son Heung-min, who rifled home a powerful 25-yard strike. Moon Seon-min then doubled South Korea's advantage to seal the result. The two-time Asian champions will also play 3 more friendlies, but before flying to Russia for the showpiece event. A viral infection has forced India's all-rounder Hardik Pandya to pull out of the World 11 squad for the Hurricane Relief T20 clash against the West Indies to be played at Lord's on Thursday. Pandya has been replaced by compatriot Mohammad Shami, and the addition of England leg spinner Adil Rashid takes the squad's strength to 12. The match between World 11, led by England's Ian Morgan, and West Indies is being held to redevelop stadiums in the Caribbean that were damaged by the Hurricane Irma last year. News from entertainment now. Bollywood actress Sara Ali Khan, who will make her debut in Bollywood with Kedarnath, has been sued by film's director Abhishek Kapoor. Kedarnath makers allege that Sara remains unavailable to shoot in June for her debut film, as she will be shooting for Simba. The case was heard in the Bombay High Court on Friday, but no settlement could be reached.